Most important thing, I think, resilience. Don't give up. If you're passionate about something you're building, go for it. And one thing that's kind of tied to it is what will help you stay resilient is your team. It's build the culture, build the team that will stand with you during great times and during not so great times. So I would say resilience and team, team, team.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Irina Fine, and Irina grew up in northern Russia, and when she was 4, they put her on the track to be a piano player. Went off to the University of Moscow and went into the field of education. The goal was to change the track system in Russia with education. After a period of time, moved to the U.S. when she was 25, and then went to the University of Massachusetts and then to NYU for postgraduate. Worked for McKinsey for a period of time, went back into education for a while, and then a friend and her decided to start an educational product that's with conversational AI, and built some tech. Paused the business and then is circling back to it after a bout with cancer. So with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. That was such a great summary of my journey from basically birth up till now.
Awesome. Well, I guess I have the innate ability to condense everybody's lives into the 30 or 45-second version of it. But why don't we circle back and unpack things just a little bit. So tell us a little bit about how your journey got started in northern Russia.
Well, I was born in northern Russia and stayed for about 5 years. Grew up close to the Arctic Circle across from Finland. My mother, I actually grew up in a household of innovators. My mother is a neuroscientist, and she worked on developing methodologies, materials, and manipulatives for children ages 0 to 7. So I grew up testing everything she created and designed, and that kind of is totally helping me on my innovator's journey. That's how it all started.
No, it sounds like a great start down. And I think one of the things that you'd mention is, and sounds like, and I'm not as familiar as you obviously are, that Russia has a bit of more of a track system, or you tend to at an earlier age start kind of down a road. And I think that you mentioned you were kind of in the piano playing or musician, professional, something or other along those lines.
Yes, it's changing a little bit now, but when I was growing up, it was a very tracked system. Literally, teams of educators would evaluate children when you turn 3. And then if it was decided, rigorous testing, if it was decided you had a math capacity, you would go to a specialized math school. If it was decided you had language capacity, you would go to specialized language schools. So I had perfect pitch and hands that had potential to develop and play very complex piano pieces. So I was put on a piano performing track when I was 4, and I loved music, but from 4 to 15, it was literally starting with 2 hours a day. And by the time I was 15, entering high school, my day was 6-7 hours of piano practice every day. And I was interested in music. I was interested in other languages. I was interested in history, linguistics. So I really wanted to get out of that track, explore a little broader. And that's kind of what pushed me into the curriculum design field. I wanted to build a system that was more integrated, where you could expose children to art, science, math, all very, basic, but also in depth. And then let them decide when they're ready, high school, college, the way normal societies do that, open doors, and then let them decide which path they want to take. So that kind of fueled my passion for education and system reform and curriculum design.
No, definitely makes sense. And I wouldn't probably fit well into the track system. I'd probably have too many diverse different endeavors I'd want to do. And so I definitely get getting into that and wanting to change that around a bit. Now, as you got into the educational field, I think, at one point you decided to move to the US. So what kind of motivated that? Was it educational opportunities, or wanted to change a location, or different opportunities, or kind of walk us through how or the transition from Russia over to the US?
Yep. Well, the reason was family. So I was at the University of Moscow, and as I was graduating, I was hired by one of the first American companies that were able to do business in Russia. And I met a person named Ian Fried, and he became my very close friend. He's actually my co-founder. So he came to Russia as part of Harvard Institute for International Development to build the first financial clearance system. Every Russian citizen was issued a voucher, kind of indicating what you own. But then the privatization ministry that did that did not think much further, did not think how we're going to clear, millions and millions of vouchers. So a group came and designed the clearance system. And so I met Ian Fried there and then, 1992, and we remained friends. And at the same time, I also met my future husband. So I tried to remain in Russia for about 2-3 years, and then the long distance US-Russia did not really work very well. So I moved when I was 25, got married when I was 24, moved here at 25. So family was the reason, but it was a nice transition from Moscow State to University of Massachusetts, where I got my master's. I wanted to work with Professor Sonia Nieto there because she was focusing on differentiated instruction, how to meet every student where they're at, right? And that was my kind of, I was of their economic background, ethnic background, how to help them get onto that path that was their dream versus, circumstantial or just not by choice.
Gotcha. No, makes perfect sense. So you come to the US, you go to graduate school, you do postgraduate work, and then if I remember right, as you're coming out of the additional schooling, you went to work in McKinsey for a period of time before getting back into education. Is that right?
Yes, yes. So I finished my postgrad work at NYU, and I worked for Metro Center, which was focusing on helping schools that were about to close due to underperforming test scores. I helped those schools redesign curriculum, train teachers in new curriculum, and kind of help them survive and not close. And that was super exciting and super inspiring. My husband got moved to the to the UK with his company. And I thought, I know Russian educational system. I now know US educational system. I am not going to spend years to try to plug it to get plugged into the UK. So I chose to I worked for McKinsey there for about 4 years. And then when I transferred back to the US, so 5 years at McKinsey, nonprofit and technology practice. I am grateful for their kind of training in business strategy, organizational strategy, business strategy, made wonderful friends. And that kind of exposed me to the business environment. And actually, when I moved back to New York, I stuck a little bit in business. I worked for a startup called the Grow Network, and that was founded by David Coleman, who is currently the president of College Board. And again, very inspiring. We designed an innovative product that helped parents deal with the two numbers that you get at the end of every year. This is your child's math score, and this is your child's reading score. Black and white paper, two black and white numbers. What do I do with them? So that company, we actually tried to break those down and build an instructional component to it. And I really liked the startup environment. We ended up selling the company to McGraw-Hill, and that's when I went back to teaching, a little bit of family balance, had 2 kids, and back on the true education track.
No, sounds like quite the journey, and lots of or twists along the way, and sounds like a fun time. So now you got married, had kids, pursued different opportunities, and then at one point I think that you'd mentioned, and it sounds like it was a friend that you'd met earlier on in the journey, but that you guys decided to to kind of switch gears or go into some of the educational products with the conversational AI, or kind of walk us through how you got to that point.
Totally. So I was working in the school system, and Ian Fried, who I mentioned, he worked for Amazon for about 15 years. He ran the Kindle team. So from conceptualizing Kindle to building it and to shipping several versions of Kindle. And then he ran the Alexa team, which dealt with the voice recognition technology. And as they were building the Alexa devices and testing the voice recognition software, he saw that the most native users and the most who benefited were actually children ages 5 to 10. It was, search by voice or interaction by voice. It was so natural to them. And he was kind of done with his, corporate career. So he reached out about 4 years ago and said, something about voice and education. Can we do something? Education inside out. And he's a tech. He's an astrophysicist, worked in tech 30 years, super talented, super humble. We're great friends. He knows my kids. I know his kids. So we've stayed in touch for 30 years and always wanted to work again together. So we set out to create learning applications that use that voice and native ability of younger children to interact with voice technology and see if we could focus on that and get some impact on learning outcomes using learning applications and reading and math using voice. That's how we started and built a team and love working together and hoping to, achieve great scale and impact a lot of students.
No, that's awesome. So now you guys you got together, you said, okay, want to stay in the educational industry, got an idea for a product, have a partner that I want to work with, all, kind of those pieces lined up. So you started the business, and walk us through a little bit. How has it gone? Is it taken off and it's been a rocket ship to the top where you have more money than you know what to do with? Is it one where it's still figuring things out, still getting the customers along the way? Has it gotten bankrupt along the way and you wish you'd never done it, or somewhere in between? But walk us through a little bit of how it's gone for you.
All of it. We're still figuring it out. The summary is we're still figuring it out. We have a great team. We're still very small. We're about 6 people, engineering, content, some literacy experts, and Ian and myself. We started on the Alexa platform and perfected our voice recognition engine, and something that we patented on the Alexa platform, tested with focus groups, worked with Boys and Girls Club to bring it into homes. And then about 2 years ago, when we felt like the product was good enough, actually last year, and maybe a year a little bit before then, in 2021, we decided, okay, we know the Alexa platform, it is device specific, so we wanted to expand to other platforms. Also, as we were going through the pandemic, parents were using our tool because everybody was sick off the screen, right? And seeing something that did not require screen, that students can interact, or children can interact with our books without looking at the screen, right? They could turn away, still hear the books, answer questions. And I will tell you a little bit about the product. So the product is basically, what we have at the moment is a collection of books, and we're licensed from children's publishers. Highlights for children. We work with Penguin Random House, teacher created materials. So we have books and we integrate conversations in those books. So a couple of sentences narrated, and then children would be asked an open-ended questions, and they can answer free form, anything they want to say. And that what has been super hard to build. And that's where kind of our claim to fame is, that we can take anything that's coming at us and evaluate it accurately and provide real-time meaningful feedback. So we built some partnerships with publishers, moved from Alexa to iOS in 2021, because as we were going through the pandemic and schools were beginning to converge with home a little bit, because, everybody's at home, but on Zoom participating in school instruction, parents and teachers became more connected. So a lot of teachers were saying to me, we know you're on Alexa, but please bring it onto the standard platform. And when they say standard platform, it's basically iOS, and the web app. So 2021, towards the end of 2021, we started to work on the iOS platform, which we launched January 2022, so last year. So not only we brought another platform, but we also pivoted to B2B, added in addition to our consumer version, we added a school version. And it was super exciting. And we started talking to schools, And of course, as life would have it, as I mentioned to you, October 2021, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Out of the blue, team was growing, business was growing, and I was basically faced, very, very aggressive medical treatment, right? Urgent, aggressive. And I decided, you know what? Family, friends were all, back and forth. Should you just pause, step out? And I didn't, right? So I did our pilots between my chemo treatments. So I would travel. My husband would come with me to lift the suitcases and bring me food and medication. But I do believe in what we're building. And that's what kind of helped me stay positive, right? Stay forward looking and not Google all the symptoms and prognosis and what's going to happen. It focused my mind on something I believed would have a long lasting effect and impact. And that actually helped me. And yes, it was hard, physically half the time, but I'm a workaholic from, my early work days. And it actually helped me and kind of brought the team together. We kept it private, some partners knew, my team knew, but I didn't want to be answering. Now I'm totally fine answering the question, how are you doing? But as I was going through it, like, I wasn't doing well. So I didn't want to take all the phone calls and answer and have that conversation. So we kept it pretty private.
No,
So that's kind of, so we pivoted, we moved to B2B. We still have our B2C. We added the whole iOS platform. And this year in January, we added the web platform. So now the app is available on any device, Chromebooks, Macs, PCs. So pretty fast moving. We won 9 RFPs in 9 school districts. So we got some traction. We're running some pilots. Actually signed 2 new channel distribution agreements last month. One is with Mackin, which is a educational supplemental resources distribution global. And then another one is ClassTag, which is a closed platform for families in schools, serving 5 million families, both teachers and parents. So we're working with distribution partners, school districts, publishing partners, but we're still figuring it out. We still need to build. We actually spent a lot of time on building research because, as you probably know, efficacy, especially now in education, and as a former educator, I know I want to see numbers and results backing up the claim that this product actually does what we intended to do. And we partnered with Learn Platform, awesome third-party research organization. They did our pilot study. They certified us as ESSA Level 3, which is Every Student Succeeds Act, by the federal government, which basically makes us eligible for federal funding because, yes, there's data proving that if you start Bamboo Learning 6 weeks later, your scores, and this is the impact you will see. So it's been exciting, but it's still the beginning. Like, I consider us in the second year in this school district market, and we're about 4 years old in terms of technology and perfecting the engine. So still figuring it out. It's up and down. And I attended ASU GSV, which is the biggest EdTech conference in San Diego. Came back yesterday. Networking partners, a lot of curriculum providers are beginning to get interested in voice-based education. So it's super interesting field, super interesting time, but still super hard. A lot of work to do.
Well, sounds like plenty to keep you busy and keep you going, which is awesome. And I think that having something that excites you in life and gives you a purpose can make a big difference in a lot of different areas. So that's awesome. So, well, now as we've caught up to the present day of the journey and seen where the business is at and where it's headed, great time to transition to the 2 questions I always like to ask at the end of each episode. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it?
The worst business decision I think I have made was not to focus on partnerships from the very beginning. And it doesn't apply to all businesses, right? But in EdTech, and specifically when selling to school districts, it's very hard to enter as a small standalone product. So partnerships kind of give you some clout and validation that actually you're doing something interesting. And also they can give you access to customers. Let's say there's a partner who has no technology at all, right? So we could help them kind of differentiate their offering a little bit, and they would give us access to their customers. So we are focusing on it now, but I think at the beginning, we were putting all of our effort into how do we make it as, yes, we had publishers, we had content partnerships, but those are not the partnerships that gave us access to customers. And I think that was probably the worst business decision that we made, and we are rectifying it now. And it's partnering with nonprofits, because a lot of nonprofits work with the populations that I would love to serve. It's the underserved communities. It's those with students who are struggling, right? That's who our product is benefiting the most. It's the English language learners. It's the minority students. It's those who struggle and perform at the below basic level. And so partnering with nonprofits, and there's a lot of philanthropy money that would underwrite a good for-profit product, delivering it to those who actually need it. So we're definitely on the right path, but I would say that was a mistake that we made last year, at the beginning of last year.
No, makes sense. And, that's one that I think sometimes this comes with the evolution of the business, is you're trying to figure out where the customer is, how we reach them, who, what the message is. And sometimes, it just takes a bit of iteration to go through that, figure out what works and where to focus on. And sounds like easy mistake to make, but a good one to learn from. So awesome.
Totally.
Second question now that I ask is, now if you're talking to someone that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Most important thing, I think, resilience. Don't give up. If you're passionate about something you're building, go for it. And one thing that's kind of tied to it is what will help you stay resilient is your team. It's build the culture, build the team that will stand with you during great times and during not so great times. So I would say resilience and team.
No, and I think that's a great takeaway. And I think, you hit on it, a team is one that will, stand by you in the times, whether it's cancer, whether it's just slow down a business, whether it's having to pivot or adjust or, go in a different direction. I think having that, that support system around you or having the ability to, or have people step in and help out can make a big difference on the business. So I think that's a great takeaway and a great piece of advice. So, well, with that, now as we're wrapping up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
You could go on our website, bamboolearning.com. You could go on my LinkedIn, search Irina Fine. That's probably the most social media that I check. I don't, email. Yes, email. They could email me, ifine@bamboolearning.com. Very easy. So any of those channels would be great. And anybody interested, like parents or teachers in trying, they could just contact me or contact us at info@bamboolearning.com. And we would be happy to set up a trial, send a promo code, set up a pilot, any of that.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, connect, support a great business. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So, well, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, the listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, and leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses along their journey to success. And on that note, if you ever need help with your patents, your trademarks, or anything else along your journey, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Well, thank you again for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you. Thank you, Devin. Thank you for having me on. It was great.